The day I returned from a long business trip, I thought the biggest surprise waiting for me would be the pile of mail stuffed in my box. Instead, it was the sight of someone else's SUV parked in my driveway, clothes hanging out of the upstairs window of my guest house, and music blaring from inside, and my pulse spiked. The guest house wasn't for rent, wasn't on Airbnb, and certainly wasn't up for grabs. It was mine, built for friends, family, and the occasional visiting colleague. But the reality smacked me hard. Someone had moved into my property without my permission, and that someone, as it turned out, was the daughter of the neighborhood's self-proclaimed Queen Beacon. I knocked firmly on the guest house door. After a minute, a young woman barely in her 20s, wearing headphones around her neck, opened it. She looked irritated, as though I was interrupting her day. "Yes," she asked flatly. "Yes, you're in my house," I snapped. "Were you, and why are you here?" She rolled her eyes. "Relax, my mom said it was fine." HOA board. I needed a place, and this was empty. I moved in last week. I stood there, stunned. Empty. It's my property. You don't get to just move in because your mom said it was fine. Her shrug told me everything I needed to. No. Entitlement ran thick in this family. By the time I stormed over to Karen's place, she was already outside in her front yard, pruning roses like she was the Queen of Versailles. She greeted me with a sly smile. "Oh, you must have met my daughter." "Tiffany, isn't it wonderful? Do you keep an eye on your guest house while you're gone? You're away so often." And the HOA agreed it was better utilized than sitting empty. I nearly choked. "You mean squatting?" "She's leaving tonight." Face hardened. "Actually, HOA rules allow for extended guest occupancy if the property isn't being used. We voted. It's official." The way she said it, calm, smug, and confident, made my blood boil. They thought they had found a loophole to steal my property rights. I called an emergency HOA meeting, thinking surely the rest of the board would side with me. Instead, they pulled out a printed document citing community resource optimization rules. According to their so-called bylaws, unused properties or dwellings may be temporarily reassigned for resident housing in cases of necessity. Necessity? I barked at them. "This isn't a community shelter. This is my private property." Karen smirked from across the table. "Tiffany just needed a place to live after college. And since your guest house is always empty, it was voted the best. Solution? It's not like you were using it." The board nodded like obedient sheep. My protests were shut down. When I threatened to call the sheriff, Karen slid a paper toward me. "Go ahead. The sheriff will only tell you the HOA has jurisdiction here. It's in the deed restrictions you signed when you moved in." That night, I sat on my porch staring at the glowing windows of my guest house now occupied by Tiffany. The audacity of it left me speechless. But one thing was certain, this wasn't over. Over the next week, Tiffany acted like she owned the place. Her friends parked in my driveway. Trash piled up on the porch. Loud music blasted at all hours. She even had the nerve to wave at me from the balcony with a cheeky, "Hey, landlord." The HOA refused to intervene. As long as she abides by community standards, her occupancy is valid, they told me. Meanwhile, Karen paraded around boasting about how her daughter had secured housing without a dime in rent. The tipping point came when I discovered Tiffany had changed the locks. I couldn't even enter my own guest house anymore. That's when I hired a real estate attorney. My attorney nearly laughed when I explained the situation. They can cite whatever HOA by law they want, but they don't override property ownership. This is a cut-and-dry case of trespassing and unlawful occupancy. We filed an eviction notice immediately. But Karen wasn't backing down. She marched to my porch, waving her own stack of papers. "You'll regret this. The HOA has protections against hostile actions. If you try to evict Tiffany, we'll fine you for harassment and retaliation." Fine me for reclaiming my own house? The arrogance was staggering. The standoff dragged into court. Karen strutted in with Tiffany at her side, armed with binders full of HOA documents. I had my attorney and the actual property deed. The judge listened patiently and looked directly at Karen. "Ma'am, no. HOA has the legal authority to seize or reassign someone's private property. These so-called bylaws are unenforceable. Your daughter is trespassing." Karen's jaw dropped. Tiffany started crying. The gavel came down. Eviction granted. The sheriff oversaw Tiffany's move out within 72 hours. Watching her lug boxes out of the guest house felt like reclaiming a piece of my dignity. Karen shouted at the deputies, accusing them of corruption, but no one paid her any mind. Afterward, I filed a lawsuit against the HOA for damages and attorney's fees. Turns out, several other homeowners had been bullied by the same resource optimization nonsense, but never fought back. My case set a precedent. The court dissolved that ridiculous bylaw and fined the HOA heavily. Guess who was forced to? Step down as president. Karen, in a delicious twist of irony, her daughter ended up having to move out of the neighborhood altogether. No one would rent to her after the fiasco, and their reputation was ruined. As for me, I installed security cameras, reinforced my guest house with new locks, and made sure everyone knew my property wasn't up for grabs, ever. This story is just the beginning. There is so much more ahead. Subscribe to the channel to join me on this journey. **. For more interesting and heart-touching stories, hit the subscribe button now.